That is unbelievable then, as Craig rightly says. Nottingham Forest sitting fourth in the Premier League, heading to the Champions League next season, no doubt about it. Meanwhile, take a look at the bottom half of the table. That win for Newcastle takes them up to 11th in the table. Meanwhile, Wolves lost at home against Ipswich. Ipswich then 1 point away from Palace. Meanwhile, of course, a big game on Sunday, Manchester City taking on Manchester United. We spoke at length about this on yesterday's show. I'm the only person who believes Manchester United are going to win this game. Gab is going with Nadem and Stevie with a draw. Meanwhile, Mr. Burley is going for a Manchester City victory. Why, Craig?
Why?
Why?
Well, yes, they're having a really tough time and the manager is struggling to comprehend it and handle it. He's had defeats in his career. Of course he has, everyone has, but he's never had a run anything close to this. But for all their ills and problems, they're still a better team than Manchester United, and they're at home. And United are no great shakes. Yes, they won in the Europa League in midweek. But look, they were beaten by Forest, I think, last time out. At home, they were a shambles. So it's two sides not in great form, but it boils down to the fact that Manchester City, even with the injuries and even with the run they've been on, are still a better side. Now, I wouldn't disagree on a sort of scoring draw either. I was pushing myself towards that just because City have been so poor defensively. But then I thought, come on, Man United are no great shakes either. So, who'd have thought we'd have been talking
by default?
Who'd have thought we'd been talking about this game in this sort of manner? Where, let's be honest, City currently have no chance of winning this title because they're not in a good enough shape to put an amazing run of results together. They're already too far behind, and a loss tomorrow to United at home would just absolutely cement it that they are going to be scrambling for the top four.
And who'd have thought we'd be talking about Chelsea as title contenders? But that's exactly where they've put themselves after the international break. They are on absolute fire. 6 wins in a row, scoring goals for fun, entertaining, exciting football we're seeing. Gab, obviously, you see Chelsea a lot. How different the whole vibe around the club is, considering what it was like at pre-season, where it was like, what on earth is going to happen? But everything has come together, and they're getting better by the week.
Yeah, they're getting better. I think, some people clearly forgot that these are young players, and young players tend to improve when they have a good coach. And a coach, I think, who also values chemistry a lot. He's, other than really rotating the wingers and, occasionally making the tweak where Lavia goes into midfield and Caicedo moves to right back, he's generally kept the same players. He's tweaked the shape a little bit, some 4-2-3-1, sometimes it's more of a 4-1.
Spurs are in action on Sunday as well. They come into their tie against Southampton after that 1-1 draw against Rangers in the Europa League. Timo Werner, of course, subbed off at half-time. In case you missed what Postecoglou had to say about that change, here he is.
You seem frustrated with Werner there, and do you need more from your senior players?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, when you've got 18-year-olds, I think it's not acceptable to me, and I said that to Timo. He's a senior international, he's a German international. In the moment we're in right now, it's not like we've got many kind of options. That I need everyone sort of, to at least be going out there, trying to give the best of themselves. And his performance in the first half wasn't acceptable.
Well, it just hasn't been acceptable overall. Spurs, has it just one win in their last 8 matches, and anyone can beat Manchester City at the moment, it seems. Let's hear more from Ange.
Do you ever have to think about toning it down for fear of stretching it even further, or do you have to then remain committed to your principles? I just wonder, in the situation you're in, where your balance lies.
It's a great question. It's a fine line, It's how much do you dilute, for what the situation you're in, and what I always think about these things. What's the long-term effects of it? Because it may relieve some short-term pain, but if that means that people lose belief and conviction in what we're trying to do because we've found a alternative path that alleviates that short-term stuff, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think they'll get us to where we want to. My resolve and determination hasn't wavered one little bit, mate. I love a fight, love a scrap. I love being in the middle of a storm when everyone doubts, and because I know what's on the other side if you get through it. My job is to get through it.
Well, it definitely is stormy waters at the moment, isn't it, for the Spurs manager? I just want to go back to the Timo Werner thing. You haven't been on since that statement was made. I just wonder what you made of it.
I think you could have went further. I mean, I didn't see the Rangers game, but I've seen a lot of Tottenham this year. And I've seen a fair bit of Timo Werner either starting or coming off the bench. The only thing I can remember him doing of any note was showing Kyle Walker a clean pair of heels in that Manchester City game.
So the argument that Stevie and the boys made yesterday is you didn't need to do that publicly.
Yeah, probably. But in terms of the player himself, I mean, whether he does it publicly or not, in terms of the player himself, if anybody needed a rocket up his backside, it's Timo Werner. I mean, I remember him coming on at Leicester. It was just right at the start of the season, and it was pathetic. We're talking about a guy who's made big money moves. We're talking about a seasoned German international. And of course he's not the only one. But his performances at times, either off the bench or starting, have been a shocker. And you look at somebody like young Archie Gray, he's 18 years old, he's a fullback. He's coming on, fighting fires, they're playing him centre-half, they're playing him there, and he's doing a job. And what Postecoglou is saying is, I need people at this moment in time to pull their weight and do a job. Now, thinking about it, making that statement, he must have been asked. It's not ideal when a manager does that. I wouldn't like it if it was me. But in terms of the factual points about the player, and he's not the only one, but it is correct. But no matter about styles or the way they play, he just needs a result at Southampton. Bottom of the league.
He's talking about being in the middle of a storm. Do you think he'll get through it?
I think if he's got Bentancur out in the league on the racism charges, I believe that's got maybe about 3 games or so to go. He's a big miss. If we can get him and the 2 centre-backs fit and not picking up all these silly injuries and bookings, and then you've got Basuma and Papi Sarr who do rash things, but particularly the 2 centre-backs, if they can have a run of games, then I think he can. But if they keep picking up these injuries to these players, and they seem to have went big on Dragusin, and it was, he was going to Bayern Munich, and they went big on him. He to me, he's not looked the best since he came in.
I don't think he's got much option.
So he hasn't got much. Ben Davies did actually a pretty good job getting in there until he got injured. So I think he can get through it, but he needs his big hitters to get back in the team, and more importantly, stay fit.
It's a lot of ifs, isn't it?
A lot of ifs, Stephens. Yeah, that's a very good point.
But I don't think sacking him is the right thing. I think that there comes a time, particularly at this club, who haven't really won much. Let's be honest about it. They've floated around the edges. They've sacked, hired and fired a lot of managers in the last few years. As he said there, you've got to believe in what you're doing and try and push forward and build. Whether Spurs get a few more bad results, Daniel Levy's getting it in the neck from the fans, as he often does, then he takes the bait and fires the manager. It's a never-ending revolving door, isn't it? And it's not going to solve what Tottenham's big problem is better recruitment, better results, longer-term manager, and getting through the bad patches without firing the manager, because they seem to do it quite a lot.